Hello, EnteiTainment here. My name is Daniel, welcoming you to my CSL Season 4 draft recap video. The draft took place yesterday, January 2nd, and it was a very chaotic time, very stressful. I missed the draft last time, so I wasn't really able to fully experience the amount of pressure within this event. It took about 2 hours and was full of rage and just emotion running rampant. But luckily we got through it. It was pretty stressful, like I said, but we survived somehow. And I just thought I would let you guys know about what I was thinking actually going into it and then what I ended up with. So just quickly gonna touch on what I was thinking about going into it. This is the sheet I had at the beginning of the draft. This is how I prepared for the draft, and if you are familiar with the spreadsheet I had for Season 3, you will probably notice that this one is severely lacking. And although it is true that I probably didn't put as much thought into this one as I did for the last one, I was also less stressed because I was actually going to be there. For Season 3, Tater Salad had to substitute for me, and definitely no disrespect to Tater Salad. I mean, he picked me up a pretty solid team. He got us a team that got us all the way to finals, so definitely no disrespect to Tater Salad. He did a fantastic job, got me all my top picks, so at least like my top tier picks, so that was really helpful. Obviously, I was really happy with that. But I do feel that I am more competitively knowledgeable about Pokemon than he is, so I didn't think that I was going to have much problem adapting to what I was seeing, whereas Tater Salad might sort of struggle with that. So I didn't give myself like 18 possibilities per pick. I just gave myself a couple because A, I felt really strongly that some of these weren't even going to get picked, and B, I knew I'd be able to adapt to what I saw. So especially here with the final pick that just says I don't know, if I got a UU Mega, which I ended up doing, I ended up getting Blastoise, then my final pick was going to come from BL2, and there's so few Pokemon in there that I just figured I would leave it up to my discretion once I actually assembled my team. So before I show you the team I actually got, I guess I gave away Blastoise. I did get Mega Blastoise, but before I go into the team I actually got, I'm just going to talk about the three main things I was thinking about coming off of last season, because I think there were at least three pretty crucial mistakes on my part last season, and the first of which was my sort of inability to deal with hazards. My rapid spinner was Claydol, and Claydol is not a great spinner for a couple of reasons. One being he's not very bulky. You can give him like an assault vest and you can fully invest in special defense, but even then he's not exactly the bulkiest Pokemon in the world, and he has a couple of pretty crucial weaknesses, one of which, bringing me into my next point, is Ghost. So if Claydol gets spin blocked by a Ghost type, they can then proceed to threaten me out with a super effective move, which really sucks because Ghost obviously hits Psychic super effectively. So that was all bad. So Claydol is really not the ideal spinner. There are definitely better ones, one of which being Blastoise as well as Excadrill. I think Excadrill is one of the better spinners in the game, so I'm definitely glad I picked him up. I'm also very comfortable with him, and I'll go into more detail about each of these Pokemon a little bit later in the video. So the first problem was not being able to get rid of hazards. The second issue was like team-wide weaknesses, because I had a lot of weaknesses to the main three. I believe were water, electric, and ice, and those are pretty tough to deal with, or they were for me, because I didn't have a lot of ways to take electric hits in particular, or ice type hits. I really struggled with that. So I wanted to try to pay better attention on the typings that I was drafting and making sure that I didn't draft like 6 Pokemon weak to electricity. So I was thinking about team weaknesses, and then I was also, for the third and final thing, I was thinking about what the heck was it? Oh, having a bulky water type, because that was something I didn't have last season, and I feel like that really punished me, because having a bulky water type or two can be really helpful, if not like borderline crucial, because water types are only weak to electric and grass, which are very easy to play around. grass types, for example, can sponge both of those hits. So bulky water types are often extremely hard to deal with for teams. So I felt like having a bulky water type, especially with Scald, would really help me a lot defensively to try to absorb more offensive pressure, since I didn't really have that benefit in my last season. So I tried to think about that as well. So the three things were having rapid spin, having less team weaknesses, and having a bulky water type or two. So those were my thoughts going into this draft. So yeah, this is what I came up with, and then down here is what we actually got. So you can see that the names highlighted in green are the ones that I scored, and the names highlighted, or name actually highlighted in red, are the picks that got quote sniped. A pick that is sniped is one that you didn't actually get. So we only didn't get a Mungus. That really sucks. I really wanted a Mungus. Mungus is fantastic. Regenerator is crazy. Spore is amazing, and just Poison Grass is really nice defensively. So it kind of sucks I didn't get them, but it's okay. I mean, I have another bulky grass type over here, and then Quillfish is a fairly bulky poison type. He brings an Intimidate user to the team, which I didn't have and I didn't even consider, which was really nice last season with Gyarados. Having that Intimidate really slows down opponents, so that might be nice, honestly, and Quillfish is pretty cool as it is. So I just counted Noivern as green over here. Noivern was my my final pick, just because I didn't know what I wanted, and Noivern actually helps me really well, or helps me a lot. He gives me a dragon type, which I didn't have, as well as a flying type, which I didn't have, so, and an extremely powerful one at that. So I'm not going to go too much into it right now, because I'm going to go over to Showdown, so I can go into more detail about like how these guys work together and the different moves I can use. These movesets you're going to see are definitely not ones that I'm going to be using competitively. They're just the main moves I want to be talking about. So Blastoise is really awesome. He is probably one of the most balanced megas out there as far as I'm concerned. He has really nice defense, really nice special defense, and of course an even better special attack with a really cool ability in Mega Launcher, which will boost moves like Water Pulse, it will boost Aura Sphere, it will boost Dark Pulse. So his ability really helps him out, really helps him secure KOs. There's a lot of megas, maybe not a lot, but there's definitely some megas that have sort of useless abilities, like Inner Focus on Gallade, for example, I think is pretty useless. Mold Breaker on Ampharos has always been kind of a drag for me. I don't feel like that's very useful. So there's definitely some megas that suffer from their ability, but Blastoise is not one of them. Mega Launcher helps him out a lot because he actually has the coverage moves to help him. An example of a mega that doesn't do that, I think, would be Camerupt, because Mega Camerupt gets Sheer Force, which helps his Earth Power, helps his Fire Blast, and that's about it, which really sucks, honestly. But Blastoise gets 3 pretty solid moves, pretty nice coverage in Aura Sphere, Water Pulse, and Dark Pulse. So Aura Sphere doesn't get boosted. He gets Dragon Pulse though. So I thought Aura Sphere got boosted. Maybe I'm lying to you. I don't know. But Dragon Pulse gets boosted, which is still fine. So yeah, Mega Launcher is really nice on Blastoise. And also Blastoise gets Scald, which is always great. Scald is probably the best move in the game because you can burn people and really cripple them. He gets Rapid Spin, which I was talking about earlier, and then Dragon Tail to phase people out. This is pretty similar to my Gyarados, except hopefully it'll be doing better than my Gyarados. Blastoise obviously cannot be as offensive as Gyarados can, but he does get some pretty cool moves like Aqua Jet. That might catch people off guard. And then, like I was talking about with Mega Launcher, coming off a base 135 special attack, a Water Pulse is going to hurt if it's not resisted, so that's not even bad. Plus, of course, he gets Ice Beam like most water types do, so there is that as well. So just a pretty solid Mega for me, I hope. Anyways, it gives me that bulky water type, and it gives me that Rapid Spinner, so that's 2 of the 3 things I was thinking about already checked off the list, really. So I have to get a sip of water, I'm sorry. So next up was Excadrill. One thing I felt like I was lacking last season, along with the stuff I already said, was a strong ground type, like a powerful Earthquake user. And again, back to Claydol. Poor Claydol getting pooped on. But Claydol gets Earthquake, but is not very strong. Claydol does not have the best offensive stats, and Earthquake is a really great move, especially when paired with Stone Edge. You can hit a lot of things neutrally or super effectively, so I think having a strong Earthquake user will help me out, help me against some teams with like bulky steel types, for example, will help me against there's not a lot of bulky fire types, but like bulky rock types it'll help me against. So, and of course Excadrill also is a really great rapid spinner, one of the best in the game, I feel. So there's that, and then he gets Stealth Rock himself, so if I need more hazard control, I can bring a sort of bulky Excadrill, just a utility Excadrill with like rapid spin and Stealth Rock. He can also be Scarfed though, which is nice. It's always nice to have potential Scarfers. And of course he can be just like all out offensive with Swords Dance. The only thing, I probably won't be able to utilize his sand abilities very well, but I feel like Mold Breaker on Excadrill isn't the worst, just because you can hit Levitate users with Earthquake, which can be really, really nice when you're trying to hit like maybe Latios or Rotom. Any of those guys you can hit super effectively. I guess not Latios, but you can hit the Rotom forms super effectively with Mold Breaker, which is obviously very, very nice. So that's the Excadrill. Next up is the Celebi. I'm going to just talk about these three together for 1 second. We have Celebi, Infernape, and Greninja. If you guys are familiar with my channel and the laddering sessions that I do, you'll know that I am an advocate for the fire, grass, water sort of offensive core. So that's what sort of led me to these three right here. I wanted 3 versatile Pokemon. My fire type was already set because Infernape was franchised. I knew I was going to have them, so Infernape was already there. I just needed 2 more, one from OU, one from UU. Celebi is one of the only grass types in OU. There's like Breloom and Venusaur, and that's basically it. I didn't want Breloom because Breloom isn't very versatile, I don't feel, plus I already had a fighting type in Infernape, so I didn't really want 2 fighting types in my offensive core. And then Venusaur I kind of figured would be drafted anyways, which I'm pretty sure it was, so didn't really want Venusaur. The other thing I want to talk about, so we have the fire, grass, water core here, but we also, now hold on here, we also have the fighting dark psychic core. Let's let that sink in. So we have a double core going on here. So when I saw that, I just instantly fell in love with that. I don't know if it's going to work. It probably won't, but I just think it's really cool that so the fire hits grass, which hits water, but then like on the other side of that, fighting hits dark, which hits psychic, which then hits fighting again. So I think that's really cool. I just noticed that and immediately went for it, so we'll see how it works out for me. I hope it works out well, but that's sort of my like main offensive core there, is those 3. But going back to Celebi, excuse me, sorry, let me get a sip of water. I'm going to talk about offensive Celebi and then just quickly go into defensive Celebi. Similar to Infernape, Celebi gets both Swords Dance and Nasty Plot, as well as the coverage moves to help them. It gets Seed Bomb, as well as then Headbutt, which is the physical Psychic alternative to Psychic, and then it gets Nasty Plot, Psychic, and then it's like Giga Drain and Energy Ball, which are the special substitutes for Seed Bomb. So not only does it get really perfect boosting moves, it also gets the stab coverage to actually do some damage, which is fantastic, and really, really, I just can't stress how awesome that is. I love that Celebi can do this, and Infernape can do that as well. If Infernape got Aura Sphere, oh, unfortunately not, but we can dream. The other thing about Celebi, I didn't even know what form moves to put here because Celebi can run so many things. Celebi gets Stealth Rock, it gets Heal Bell, it gets recovery, like a reliable recovery for once, and it gets Thunder Wave as well. So this thing could be anything. Its stats are all the same, which encourages anything, just because it doesn't really have like strengths. It's just I guess it's mediocre all around. 100 down the board is okay, and definitely aids him to be able to become kind of whatever he wants. He also gets Natural Cure, which it's the only ability he gets, and it really benefits his defensive side, because if I get toxic or like burned, I can just switch out and lose that immediately. So that'll be nice, and I think Celebi is able to shut down a lot of really common OU threats like Azumarill or Garchomp, or I don't know, just like, we'll look, like Breloom, Conkeldurr, because like Conkeldurr gets coverage to hit me, but knockoff is really only good once, and pretty sure I can take Ice Punches. It deals with Excadrill, deals with just, there's a lot of physical threats that Celebi can deal with really, really well, I feel. So I think a defensive Celebi will also be a nice addition if I choose to run that. I don't really need to talk about Infernape. Infernape is crazy. Infernape gets a ton of moves. These are only some of the ones here. He's a pivoter, a fake out user. He has Fire Blast. He has the priority Vacuum Wave, which is awesome. He has Stealth Rocks. He has Close Combat is obviously terrifying. Flare Blitz, Focus Blast, Flamethrower, Fire Blast is already on there, never mind. But it's just, he's crazy. He gets insane coverage. Earthquake, he gets Stone Edge, he gets Taunt, he can do whatever the heck he wants. Overheat, Poison Jab. You can do anything with this Infernape. Pretty much anything. Obviously, his stats leave him to be more inclined to be offensive, since his attack and special attack are pretty good, and then his speed is good as well. It's not like insanely quick, but Infernape will generally be able to outspeed most things, at least most things in lower tiers. So there's that. I love Infernape. So glad I franchised him. I think he's fantastic. He brings so much versatility to the team, and I can really adapt him to be whatever I want him to be. So he's definitely actually, I guess I'm captain of the Syracuse Sylveons, aren't I? Oh, geez. So, no, I'm coach. Okay, so Kerchak will be captain. Captain Kerchak here of the Syracuse Sylveons. So, yeah, gotta love him for Infernape. Anyways, he also gets Gunk Shot. I don't know if I said that. Make another sip of water, I'm sorry. Here we have Greninja, which was a bit of a risky pick for me. Oh, I should say this before I go on. Some of you may be confused as to why you see this Greninja on your screen right now, because Greninja is Uber's, and it is my UU pick, which seems a little unfair, but the reason behind that is the abilities. So obviously Torrent, not the best. Protean, completely insane. The reason Greninja is Uber's is because of Protean. So without Protean, Zwoops, sort of the head of the CSL, has decided that Greninja is UU if it runs Torrent. So that is why Greninja is my UU pick. I saw that we have this big document, and like the list of exceptions was on there, and Greninja was one of them, and I immediately saw that and I was like, damn, that would be an awesome UU pick. I really want Greninja because Greninja is really quick, has really nice special attack, and it's pretty good attack as well. So there's a lot of stuff you can do. It gets Scald, it gets U-Turn, it gets Gunk Shot, it gets a lot of coverage, Grass Knot, Ice Beam, Hydro Pump, like Quick Attack. I didn't even know it got that. Obviously without Protean, it's not going to be dealing as much damage as it would, because stuff won't be Stab unless it's Water or Dark type, but like it gets so much stuff. Taunt, Toxic Spike, it's really similar to Infernape, I feel. It's just sort of like the reverse typing. So I think that's really cool. It gets priority with Shadow Sneak. I thought Water Shuriken was priority, but it doesn't say it on here. Maybe it's just a multi-hitting move. I don't know. I thought it was, but I guess I'm wrong. Anyways, the last thing I want to talk about is Dark Pulse. So Greninja is obviously generally a special Pokemon. If they're running Dark Pulse, they will be specially offensive. And I feel that special dark types in like OU, UU are generally pretty rare. Almost exclusively, dark types are physical. You have Tyranitar, you have Bisharp, you have like Crawdont from UU, Crocodile from UU, just all these all these physical dark types. The only exceptions to that I can think of right now are Hydreigon from UU, and then maybe Mega Sableye from OU. But Sableye is different because with Sableye you want to set up to like +6 and then sweep a team with Dark Pulse. But with Greninja you just have this stab powerful Dark Pulse on deck, and I feel like special dark types are not often planned for in this tier because they just don't exist. There aren't any. When Greninja left, there were no more. And I mean, Greninja could be whatever type you wanted, but there's just no special dark types in OU that I can think of really at all. So I might be able to utilize that and sort of take advantage of people's inability to deal with special dark types because they might just not be considering it. I don't know. It was just sort of a weird thought I had. I was just sort of thinking about it like, what gets Dark Pulse? And it's not a lot. I mean, stuff gets Dark Pulse. Like Tyranitar gets Dark Pulse, but you don't normally run it. So I just thought it was interesting. Just food for thought. I don't know where I'm trying to go with this, but I thought it might give me some sort of advantage having like an actual powerful Dark Pulse user. I don't know. Anyways, that brings me to my, should I just overview? Really, the overview was this trio right here. This like double offensive core that I hope will do well, but gives me so much diversity. I couldn't even like put all the moves in here that I wanted to put in here. They each could carry like 12 moves, 12 really good moves. So, and then I have my spinners and just like utility Pokemon. My Mega is more of a utility Pokemon. Last season it was Mega Aerodactyl, who sometimes I was sort of forced to be utility, but is generally better at being offensive. So I thought I would try the more defensive route for my Mega. And I guess with the exception of the Mega, I wanted my higher tier picks to be focused on offense, which is what led me to this trio here, like aided by Excadrill. So that was my thought process. I wanted my higher tier picks to be offensive and my lower tier picks to be defensive, with the exception of Blastoise over there. And of course, there's some exceptions as well, just within this sort of quartet right here. Excadrill can be defensive, Celebi can be defensive, but generally speaking, I wanted my higher tier Pokemon to be offensive. Like Blastoise can be offensive, obviously. So now that I have made that clear, I'm going to go into my lower tier picks, which you will probably see right away are generally more bulky. Ignore this guy. And Weavile is pretty offensive as well, but these four here are definitely my bulkier Pokemon, and they do come lower down on the tier list. I will get one more sip of water. Okay, so initially in the draft for my what even are you? Are you NU? You're RU. Okay, my bad. You're RU. Initially, when I was drafting, I actually picked up Cofagrigus here because Amoonguss got sniped. I was definitely not prepared for that. As you can see by this, I don't have anything under Amoonguss because I was number 4, and I just didn't think it was very likely that Amoonguss got taken away from me. But it did, so I had to kind of panic and pick something else, and I ended up picking Cofagrigus, which I realized at the end of the draft was not the best plan because I had a Gourgeist, and should I say Georgeist? That sounds so awkward. I'm gonna say Gourgeist. Yeah, Gourgeist and Cofagrigus are pretty much the same in terms of what they do. They Will-O-Wisp stuff, they take hits, they have Pain Split, they do essentially the same thing, except like Gourgeist is a grass type and gets Leech Seed and stuff, and then Cofagrigus has better stats and has a better move pool. It has like knockoff and stuff like that. So I sort of had to decide between if I wanted better stats or if I wanted that grass typing and that like Leech Seed annoyingness. So I ended up ditching Cofagrigus. I went the grass type way just because I felt like I needed a grass type, especially because I just lost my Amoonguss. I really wanted to get that grass type, so that's why I decided to lose Coppergus and instead pick Qwilfish, because at the end of the draft we were allowed to switch one out. So I just switched out Coppergus. I was like, no sir, bring in the Qwilfish. Qwilfish is cool. Qwilfish has Intimidate, which I hadn't even considered until at the end of the draft. Gyarados last season with Intimidate was really useful. It's really nice for slowing down teams. So Intimidate will be nice for me. He also has that poison typing that Amoonguss would have had, and then Gourgeist has that grass typing that Amoonguss would have had, so I feel like they might be able to sort of go together. Hopefully. He gets Scald, another Scald user. I don't think Qwilfish generally runs Scald, but you never know. He also gets Poison Jab, which is a nice stab poison type move. He gets Toxic Spikes, he can set stuff up. He also gets like Aqua Jet, so an offensive Qwilfish is not unrealistic. I know it was run against me actually last season, so he was running like Banded, Aqua Jet, and Qwilfish, which is pretty powerful. So he has the same attack stat as Greninja. He's not terrible. His Intimidate makes him sort of bulkier indirectly, since obviously his defensive stats are not like anything to write home about, but with that Intimidate, he will be able to take hits a little bit better. He doesn't have reliable recovery, but I managed to get around that with Rest on Gyarados. I have a couple Heal Bellers on this team, so I don't think reliable recovery should be too much of an issue for me. So that's Qwilfish. Next we have Rhyperior. Rhyperior is so fun. I love Rhyperior. He's insanely powerful. He has a ridiculous defense, and his speed and special defense could not be lower. But he does get Solid Rock, which sort of helps with that. Obviously, having 2 quad weaknesses is still not the greatest, but you know, Solid Rock is a really nice ability. He gets the devastating Edgequake combination, which hits a lot of stuff neutrally, like I was talking about before. He gets really cool coverage. He gets all the elemental punches. He gets a couple fighting type moves. He gets like Iron Head. He gets Outrage. I don't think I'd ever run that, but like Poison Jab, Power Up Punch, Rock Blast. I don't know. He gets some really cool stuff, and I feel like his coverage and his like insane upper stats here make him really formidable. He can also be a stealth rocker. He could be a hazard setter for me. He gets Roar and stuff, so, and Toxic obviously because everything gets Toxic, but he could be defensive for me. He could be offensive for me. He could be Assault Vest, I guess. I don't know. Does he get Drain Punch? No. Man, that'd be awesome actually. Dynamic Punch. Lame. Well, anyways, he can do a couple different things. I think he will be a lot of fun. He obviously doesn't really want to take special hits, but I feel like his water weakness will be well covered since I have so many water types. He's weak to grass, but I do have a couple of grass types as well as this guy over here, this Hydreigon. No, you're not Hydreigon, you're Noivern. But so I feel like his weaknesses will be balanced out okay. He's weak to fighting, but you know, Qwilfish got him, Gourgeist got him. I think his weaknesses are balanced fairly well on this team, and I think he will be able to provide some hopefully much needed physical both presence and support on the defensive side. So that's why I settled on Rhyperior. I think there's a lot of stuff you can do with him, and he just seemed like a fun pick. I love Rhyperior. He's really cool. Next we have Sneasel, the Weavile. I thought Weavile would actually be taken. I was pretty happy with my OU picks anyway, so I didn't really want Weavile, but I just assumed Weavile would be taken. He wasn't, but we ended up getting Sneasel, which is just like a slightly slower, slightly weaker Weavile. I think Weavile is 125 speed and 105 attack, maybe? Weavile. 120 attack, excuse me. So he's 120 attack, 125 speed, so definitely faster and more powerful, but Sneasel still gets all the same moves. He gets Ice Shard, which is what I wanted. I wanted that priority. He gets Knockoff, which is always nice. Knockoff is really, really good. The ability to remove items from the opponent is not something to laugh about. Knockoff can really cause some damage. But he also gets like Icicle Crash for stab. He gets a lot of nice coverage, so I think Sneasel will be good for us. He gives me another Swords Dancer. I have a lot of Swords Dancers on this team, so I don't think I'll ever be running that, but Sneasel is pretty powerful, especially for a lower tier Pokemon, and he gets the priority that I wanted and Knockoff. So those are really the two reasons I picked him. His abilities are basically useless, but that's okay. Weavile's abilities are pretty useful, so I think he gets like people run pressure, maybe pickpocket, I don't know. So I don't know, just this whole lineage doesn't get many good abilities, but what can you do? Next we have this Lantern. Again, no reliable recovery, but like I was talking about before, having rest as well as a heal beller can be really effective. I felt when I had rest on Gyarados and then heal bell on my Florges, I felt like that worked well for me. He is also another Scald user. We're just going to have all the Scald users. And let me talk about his abilities really quick. He gets Volt Absorb and Water Absorb, which is really nice for me because I can sort of play around with the opponent, make him try to guess which I am. This sort of mirrors the whole Bronzong thing, since Bronzong can have Levitate or Heat Proof. As we learned, however, Heat Proof does not actually make you immune. So Lantern is immune to electric or water, not taking any of that half damage BS. So some really nice abilities here that I can mess with people. Can give me electric immunity or a water immunity if I want that instead. And finally, just some nice bulk, pretty nice HP. Not the best defensive stats, but hopefully that HP number will be able to make up for it. And he also gives me a slow pivoter, which isn't something I really had last time, I don't think. Nothing comes to mind. So what I mean by that is, so if I have Lantern out and I just want to go for Volt Switch, Lantern will hopefully be able to like stomach an attack from the opponent, and then I can Volt Switch out into one of my frailer Pokemon, namely Weavile, Infernape, and Greninja are going to be my like frail, really offensive Pokemon. I think that specifically Infernape and Greninja will benefit a lot from that, since they don't want to take hits and they really appreciate getting into battle with full health and not needing to take any damage at all. So I think Lantern will work really well for me just because of my offensive core. Celebi is a little bulkier, but still, if I run an offensive Celebi, he's not really going to want to take hits either. So I think having a slow pivoter will work well for me. Which leads me into Gourgeist. Gourgeist is cool. Gourgeist is basically just like a baby Trevenant. I didn't want to pick Trevenant again because I tried to stay away from the same Pokemon I had last season, but he gets Will-O-Wisp, he gets Leech Seed, he gets Substitute. He's basically Trevenant, just with a few differences. His stats are obviously different. I don't know Trevenant's stats off the back of my hand, but off the top of my head. So it looks like Gourgeist is actually more defensive, whereas Trevenant is slightly more offensive, maybe? Yeah, oh, okay. The other thing I want to talk about is how he gets 4 forms, and I didn't even realize this, and I'm entitled to any of these since I got Gourgeist, and that's really interesting because it gives me this little window of diversity that I was not expecting, and since diversity was like my whole theology here, it was really surprising and really nice for me to realize that this thing has 4 different forms. Now, it's not the greatest because it's looking like he's trading bulk for speed. His attack changes too, but like I don't want a speedy Gourgeist, so I don't see why I wouldn't bring Gourgeist Super every single time, because it has the best attack and best defense and lowest speed. Like, I don't care about his speed. Gourgeist is not going to be speedy at all. So I don't really know. His ability is cool. I think that I think that Frisk is actually really nice because Gorgeous is obviously going to be switching into physically inclined, physically offensive Pokemon, or especially offensive, I don't know, it was offensive in general. So it'll be nice for me to know what item they have, I feel. I think that the sort of ability to know what your opponent is running is often very, very helpful, especially if you find a Scarfer. Generally, most teams won't run 2 Scarfers, so if you find their Scarfer, then you'll know, oh, if this is Scarf, then that must not be. Obviously, you'll know if something is Scarfed if it outspeeds something it shouldn't, but aside from that, I think Frisk can be really nice. It'll also alert me to any random berries, which apparently run rampant in this sort of league-based these league-based battles. So that'll be nice as well. The one thing I will say about the alternate forms, it relates to Pain Split. Generally with Pain Split, since you share HP equally with the target, if you have less HP, you'll regenerate more health, if that makes sense. So if we look at Gourgeist Small here, it does have the lowest HP number, so if that's like a trade-off I want to do, I guess I could do that, but I don't know. I don't want a Gourgeist that is like 100 speed. That's ridiculous. So I'm not sure, but that's really the only synergy I see there with his different forms. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the different forms. I'm probably just going to leave him in one form, but I guess we'll see. He gets Shadow Sneak as well, so he gets priority, and just some pretty cool coverage. Some Fire types moves. He gets Gyro Ball. He gets Light Screen. That's cool. Trick can be nice. I think he gets Trick Room as well, so that's weird. And finally, that leaves me with my final pick, which was Noivern. As I talked about before, I had no idea what I wanted over here. And since I ended up with a UU Mega and Blastoise, I drew from BL2. So I'll take you guys over to BL2 so you know what I'm talking about when I'm saying that there's not much in here. Okay, so here we go. This is the same thing I had with Tornadus last time. I knew I would be able to find something in here that I wanted based off the team I had. So I got to this slot and I noticed I didn't have any dragons, I didn't have any flying types. So Noivern it was. I was trying to decide between Noivern and picking up Dragalge again, or maybe Kingdra, because I really wanted a dragon type. I felt like not having a dragon type last season, I didn't have a dragon type, right? No, I didn't. So I felt like that kind of hurt me as well, not having a powerful dragon until I picked up Dragalge, obviously. So I didn't want to pick up Dragalge again. So I didn't. It ended up getting picked anyways, so just, it's fine. And I ended up getting Noivern. He gives me a powerful flying type user with Hurricane as well as Air Slash if I want to be more accurate. He gets Draco, obviously, which is insanely powerful. He gives me another U-turner. And it gets pretty good coverage as well. It gets some fire type moves. It gets Ghost. Good run of physical Noivern. It does get U-turn, like I said, for that initiative, and some pretty cool abilities in either Frisk or Infiltrator. I already have a Frisk user, so I don't think I'll be running Frisk too often, but Infiltrator will at least help me ignore all the things here, substitutes, and then I guess Light Screen is going to be the main one I'm ignoring, but you know. So Noivern is really cool. I like Noivern a lot. It's incredibly quick. It gives me a nice fast Pokemon that I didn't really have before, with the exception of Greninja. So those are my 2 fast Pokemon, I guess, in Weavile kind of. And then obviously with like a choice specs, this thing will hit like a truck. So I'm definitely excited about that. We saw how much Draco Meteor can do. That was adaptability to Gouge back in the day, but you know, Noivern is like a close second place to the hardest Draco dropper. Latios doesn't have anything on me. So, or I guess Latios. No, Latios. So I think that is all. I think that is all I wanted to say. I just wanted you guys to be familiar with the team that we're using, as well as my thought process going into it, and just, I'm really happy with it, actually. I am very content on how this went. I only missed Amoonguss, so there's not much to be sad about. I think it will work well. I do have my one, what's it called? I get one, I'll call it like a redo. I get to trade one. It's what I did last time with Tornadus and got Dragalge, which ended up winning me a lot of games. So if I end up needing to change something, I still have that liberty. So, but I don't think I will. I might switch out Sneasel, but that's really the only one I'm feeling iffy about. I will say I'm slightly scared about having 3 bulky water types. It's not exactly what I wanted. I did want that Amoonguss, but I don't think it'll be terrible just because this thing can have Volt Absorb. I have 2 ground types, 2 grass types for that electric coverage. And then obviously I have like this fire type, and I have Infernape and Noivern for any. Wait, what am I talking about? No, what takes grass types? Oh yeah, Infernape, Noivern, Gorgeist. So I think it'll work okay. I think I did well trying to think about the 3 main things: the spinner, the bulky water type, and the less team weaknesses. The main team weakness I do see is, I guess, electric, but I think it'll be okay. I'm hoping it'll be okay. Fingers crossed. I'm definitely happier about this draft than I am about last season's draft. And we got to finals last season, so who knows. But anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like if you did, or a dislike if you didn't, and feel free to let me know why either way down in the comment section. You can leave any questions or concerns down there, and I will make sure I get back to you as soon as possible. And as always, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, or whatever day it happens to be when you're watching this. This has been Daniel, and EnteiTainment out. Like, what does he have to hit me super effectively? I'm going to click Earthquake here. Maybe he goes into Rampardos or something. He does! Oh! No, sir. I don't think so. Not today.